So I just saw the movie Babylon, and it was, I don't know, weird. It was an unusual experience. I'll say this, unique experience. There were sequences in this movie that I absolutely loved, and then there were some sequences in it that I was kind of, checking the clock a little bit through. It's a long movie at 3 hours and 9 minutes. But as I said, there's some interesting parts in this movie. So the idea behind it is it's kind of a retelling of old Hollywood. It talks about sort of the end of the silent era of films, and then the beginning of the when movie started having sound in them. It's kind of, that's what it's about, and it's sort of this anti-movie in a way, and then it becomes not that. So it's kind of one of the issues I actually had with it was it felt like the main point of the movie in general was a bit muddled at times, but that's the idea behind it, was at times I thought a very fascinating and very interesting idea and a really fun one. The first hour of this movie, I was sitting there saying, how does anyone not like this movie? This is great. This is so much fun. And then I really do feel like in that second 2 hours, they could have easily cut out like all of it. There was no specific part really that had to be in the movie, and I guess you could say that about the entire movie. There's, you could edit out any specific scene and it still works as a movie. It still would have worked just as well, probably, other than having, unless you like that scene. So that's just kind of what you're in for. Is it's definitely something where it might actually be a preferred movie to watch at home, where you can kind of pause it after an hour and a half and then come back to it later. That could be an option, but the reality is, I think there's pros and cons. So I want to talk about the pros and the cons. Might even get into spoilers later on, but don't worry, I will warn you before I do that. But still, in the non-spoiler discussion, the pros of this movie are, I love that this movie exists. I love that this movie is out there. I've heard people saying, who gave Damien Chazelle this much money? I don't know who did it, but I'm glad they did, because I like movies like this existing. I like the idea of you just give an artist who, again, big Damien Chazelle fan myself. I think Whiplash is fantastic. I like La La Land, and I was very, very excited to see what he would go with next, because, again, First Man, which is his other movie he directed but did not write. So I was very excited to see his sort of third movie here, and I would say it's his worst of the three. But I just love that it exists. I love the kind of the excess that's going on. It really does capture this like very Wolf of Wall Street type vibe. I don't think it's anywhere near as good as Wolf of Wall Street, but it captures that vibe, but more in like a dirty way, which seems weird to say. How could it be dirtier than The Wolf of Wall Street? But just in general, of like, it definitely feels dirty. One thing they did was they definitely, had it with a very warm color palette, which kind of, I think, added to the dirtiness of it in a sense, but it can kind of also add to the glamour of it, and that's kind of what the movie was in a lot of ways, was the why people are attracted to this kind of thing, to this kind of lifestyle, but also the negative ramifications of the lifestyle, which again is just it's a fascinating discussion. This movie, I mean, it shoots out of the gate. I think people have talked about it online, but almost what. I'm not spoiling anything major here. This happens in the first 10 minutes of the movie. It starts with an elephant pooping on the camera itself. You then have a shot of a guy getting peed on. You don't see it, but you see it. I mean, you don't see the act of peeing, but you see that he's getting peed on. So it shoots out of the gate. It says, this is what we're doing here, and if you don't want to watch, don't watch, kind of thing, which is fine. And honestly, I love that stuff. I love the opening party sequence, and then to have a sequence of them trying to film something, which is one of the more accurate depictions of, I think, trying to film something. I've only filmed like comedy sketches and stuff on, the Jackson Cougar Sports channel. And also I used to make comedy sketches before that channel took off, which since then that channel has been deleted. But I felt like in Babylon, one of the more accurate depictions of trying to film something I've ever seen, where everyone kind of, there's the Fabelmans approach of like, oh, it's all magical. Look at the Hollywood magic. It's like, no, usually it's a lot of people yelling at each other. It's a lot of people trying to desperately get stuff done. You only have so many hours to film stuff. You're stressed all the time. Every little thing that goes wrong feels like an absolute disaster. I've never worked on any big set, but like, from what I hear about big sets, it pretty much is just everyone waiting around for one guy to do something. So that, again, the chaos, the fast-paced nature really worked for me. and then it kind of just stopped and it slowed down a lot. There was a scene that where they're learning how to use the, go from the, not having sound and kind of being able to be more free in a sense to now you have sound and you have to deal with all of that. And it was a good scene. I like the scene, but I don't think it needed to be as long. And that's kind of my thing about a lot of this stuff was, there were a lot of scenes that just felt like, I don't know if we needed this. It could have been tightened up is probably the main thing. Sometimes it's good to have some of these resources taken away so you can't make 3-hour and 9-minute long movies that don't need to be that long. And just some of it just didn't work for me, I guess is the main thing. And I kind of found myself getting bored at times. So again, it's worth watching for the good sequences. I do think that if they cut an hour out, this might be an awesome movie, but that's a lot of time to cut out. I mean, we're talking an hour of film. So again, and to be clear, it's not like there were any scenes that I was like, oh, this is a bore, let's move on from this. Just some scenes I felt like, I don't know if it needed to be 20 minutes long, it could have been 4 minutes long and still just as effective, was kind of my main critiques. So I'll get into spoilers now, why don't we? My final score for this movie is going to be a 3 out of 5 stars. Again, worth watching, but the pacing issues and kind of the muddled themes of the movie that, again, I say muddled, maybe it actually makes perfect sense and I missed it, which is possible. But, as a reviewer, I'm talking about how it worked for me and what I saw in the movie, and I, was kind of confused, and I'll have to explain it more in spoilers. So, yeah, 3 out of 5. Let's get into spoilers. So, okay, spoilers now. 3, 2, 1. Hopefully you turn it off now if you don't want to be spoiled. Like I said, the themes, I don't fully get what they're going for. Because at first, here's what I think Damien Chazelle is going for. Here's what my interpretation was of it, was throughout the movie, you see these people desperately want to get into show business, and it goes terribly wrong for just about everybody. I mean, it's a running gag about people dying on set consistently. We see how there's been horrific stuff about, for people of color trying to be in the movie business back in the day, obviously. It talks about all that stuff. It doesn't glamorize old Hollywood, really. And then the end happens, which sequence I thought was great. I really enjoyed that final sequence. I thought that was really fun. But it kind of, and I think the idea behind it is, okay, this is what it takes to make movies. This is awful, but we still love them. And we still can't help but find the glamour in that, which I think is a fine story to tell. It's just not really that, I don't know. It almost feels like you're making this point for this whole movie, and then at the end you're saying, yeah, but movies are still cool. And I'm just like, well, okay, I guess then what was the point of this movie? Was kind of that's just how it felt for me. Again, I get that that's not how everyone is going to feel, but it just kind of left me a little bit like, well, why did I just spend 3 hours watching the movie? Again, some scenes I really liked, like the whole what was it, LA's asshole scene with Tobey Maguire. I've heard that that's a divisive scene. It worked great for me. One of my takeaways after getting out of this movie was, man, you know what? Damien Chazelle should make a horror movie, because I thought that stuff was really cool. I mean, the guy eating the mouse, that was like, I was almost like gagging in the movie theater. Like that was like that gross. I've never seen something like that. That was incredible. And just sort of the feeling of, you're in there. You're far down to where if something goes wrong, what are you going to do? And something could go wrong because they just gave this guy a bag of fake money. I thought all of that stuff was really cool. Some scenes just didn't work for me. Like, I don't know, the Margot Robbie, I guess, a couple of the side characters, like Margot Robbie was awesome in this movie. I should have mentioned that in the beginning part. Like, all the performances great. But, like the Margot Robbie, like melting down at the, fancy place, whatever you call it. And then, all the throwing up and stuff. I don't know. Didn't work for me. Just was kind of just found like, okay, let's get on with this. Let's figure out where we're going here. And again, I think part of it might just be, it's like, if you're liking the scenes, you're not going to be upset about the pacing and all this stuff. But if you're not enjoying the scenes as much, like I wasn't as much in the middle section, it just doesn't quite work as well for me. So again, like the movie, I think that there's a lot of fun in it. I hope that, the reality is these movies aren't going to last. I'm enjoying them now while they last, because I just don't think they're going to last that much longer. These sort of big budget movies that have, just, hey, director, go make a movie kind of thing. Here's $100 million. Go make $4 million at the box office. It's unfortunate. There was only one other person in my movie theater when I watched it, and I'm not even sure if it's still in theaters at the time of recording this in most places. So, unfortunate, all of that stuff. But at the same time, very much a visual treat, a very fascinating movie to watch. But it wasn't my favorite movie, but still very excited to see what Damien Chazelle does next. That's what I think. What did you guys think? Have you seen Babylon? Let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. Of course, as always, thanks for watching.